Hi, welcome to SBRtv. I'm Peter Loshak. This is our football openers show. This week we've got John Ryan as our guest, and we're going to take a look at college football Week 5, NFL Week 4. John, how you doing?
Good, Peter. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Did you check out the openers last week? Utah State. Check what that happened with that game. It opened. I got that at 6. It closed at 13.
Yeah, that was a pretty amazing line move, and again, it shows when you have a line movement of that magnitude that started that early in the week, and it's actually happening again with the Utah State game this week.
Well, it just goes to show you, like, if you had offered like every sharp in the world the Utah State opening line, you know, when at closing, they would have bet like half their bankroll on it, and they would have lost, you know. But at any rate, yeah, let's look at the college football openers for this week. You say Utah State. Yeah, I just got off the phone with Doc talking to him about some of the big moves, and he said he got action on Utah State this week again against BYU on Friday is one of the big games that he's gotten early sharp action on, and also Army against Temple. I went and, after the call, I went and bet Army -7 at -120 after that, and then he also said a real sharp guy took Purdue plus 12.5.
Yeah, clearly the Utah State game was a surprise to me. I didn't think that Brigham Young would open at 10, and you know, it's not about being right or wrong, but the line now has dropped down to 6.5.
It opened at 10, really. I didn't even catch that. I saw 8.5 when I looked at it the first time last night.
The interesting thing, though, the numbers on that game, the number of bets being made on Brigham Young is a larger number of bets than Utah State. So that tells me that the number of the size of the bets on Utah State are the big money guys.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what Doc told me when I got off the phone with him. He said he's got a big move on Utah State. Yeah, I don't know if I would take that now. I mean, BYU, you know, they played, you know, UCF. Everyone was on UCF. UCF's obviously a very quality team, and BYU beat them by a touchdown.
I'm leaning the same direction as you, Peter. I think BYU's the play, and we'll have to see how that pans out later this week.
Yeah, another game he said that he got a big sharp action on, Army -7. Now it's up to 7.5. I ran and took it at 7 -120. I kind of like that. Tulane looks like, you know, I don't know if they'll be able to hang within a touchdown of Army. And then he also said Purdue plus 12.5 at Notre Dame. You know, I love fading Notre Dame, especially as a double-digit favorite. Purdue's at home. I don't know about Purdue, though. They kind of suck. I like Notre Dame kind of like beating up on teams that suck and then fading against teams that are quality. So I'm not sure about that. What do you think about that line? First thought.
Oh, you're absolutely right about Notre Dame. Notre Dame is now, the last 5 years, has beaten up on the inferior teams and done miserably against the ranked teams. So, you know, off the top of my head here, the line movement's not surprising in that game. The Army-Tulane game is a little surprising to me because that's a game that I thought Army should open up at about 10 or 11. It's climbing up there now, but the fact that it opened at 6 was kind of surprising to me. I thought the lines makers would anticipate a little bit more public betting on Army.
And then other lines that caught my eye that I bet a little bit. It wasn't like the boon of openers that it was to me last week. This week I did take Indiana plus 17 at home at Penn State. Now it's down to 16.5. That's the line that people have been debating on SBR. They've been saying, you know, Indiana's terrible, but Penn State shouldn't be a 17-point road favorite against anyone. And then I also took a little bit of Eastern Carolina plus 7. Now it's down to 6.5. You know, Eastern Carolina, they hung within Virginia Tech by a touchdown, and you know, their kind of team has some problems, but they do tend to, you know, hang around and get covers against the top programs when they play them. Those are the lines that I took. And then there's a few others I'm looking at. Florida International -2.5 at home against Duke. You know, Florida International, they beat Central Florida. Central Florida is obviously a quality team, and Duke now going on the road after 2 wins. I think that Florida International -2.5 might be a decent bet. Looking over the card, that's about it for me at the moment. Do you have anything else you'd like to say about any of those games?
The one that really stands out to me is Temple.
Oh, okay.
Temple's coming off that
awesome.
I mean, that was a huge win in Maryland.
Awesome.
And they played Penn State and could have, you know, possibly upset them. That game was at the Lincoln Financial where the Eagles play in Philadelphia. So it was essentially almost a home game for Penn State since it's so. Temple should get a little bit more respect against Toledo. And currently they opened at 7.5 and are actually bet down now to 7.
Well, you know, Temple, maybe they're one of these teams that's a great bet when they're one of these big underdogs, but then when they turn around and they're the favorite and they're, you know, the top team playing against another team that might be, you know, a little bit underrated or undervalued, maybe they're not a good bet as a touchdown favorite. What do you think about that?
That's quite possible, Peter. I mean, that's a great way to look at it. It's just, to me, it's just completely weird that they're only 7 and they're playing at home. I mean, it's that one's mind-boggling. Oh, the UCLA at Stanford. That's an interesting line too. UCLA is plus 22 on the opening. Now bid down to 20.
Yeah.
I kind of like the points there off the top of my head.
Really? One thing I like doing Stanford games is if I like them pretty much no matter what kind of a line I'm liking them on, instead of taking them on the points, I like taking their team totals over, you know?
Well, Alabama, Florida too. I'm waiting for some
yeah.
action on that. That's been getting, in terms of number of bets, that's obviously a popular game to bet.
Yeah.
Alabama opened at 5. They're now 4, which, you know, it's in the swamp.
Well, I have it here at 5 on DSI, but I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that line's going to close? Going to stay where it is? Do you think it's going to creep towards 7 or creep towards 3?
Oh, I would have to think it goes higher.
Right.
I think the public is all over Alabama.